in our last conversation, I kind of touched on in the beginning, we focused a lot on the benefits of the physical benefits of exercising, right? I mean, whether it's feeling better. I know you gave the example of the lady whose back was all messed up, and then she got to the point where she could do squats and walk upstairs without issue. You know, the shoulder issues. There's all these different physical advantages to exercise and in being active. But on the other side of it, can you touch a little bit more, or a lot more, however much you want? Can you touch more on the mental benefits side, mental health, mental benefits of being physically active and exercising?
Certainly. So that's a huge rabbit hole, and there's a lot there. Like, we have an incredibly complex system, and so our system is very much dependent on how we are handling these external pressures, the internal pressures we're dealing with all the time. And so if you're looking at mental health, you're looking at what sort of so the impact of your physical health on your mental health. One of the big things that people talk about is when they start working out, their confidence goes up, right? And that's a very simple thing to see. Like, you're doing work and you're reaping a reward at the end. Maybe you look better, maybe you feel better, maybe you start to understand what you're actually capable of, right? I think in the last one we talked about how it's competence that builds confidence. And so you teach your body that you are more capable, and it's going to respond by saying, we can handle these situations. Okay? So a shortcut to confidence, which is something where, like, I can't just look in the mirror and say, I am more confident. I am more confident. I am the most confident person ever. Like, you can fake it so much, but you can't BS yourself, you know, like, your body knows, your system knows. And so when you start proving it and you change this perspective of your system on yourself, that's where it really comes in. And so if we look at that system and we say, the system is really trying to keep our butts alive, what it's trying to do is it's trying to look at what's going on around us and make a prediction about what's going to happen. So it's trying to tell the future, basically, so that we can be prepared for it, so we can survive it. If you're not, it's the surprises that get you, right? So when it makes a judgment call about what's going to happen, you know, bad, good, whatever, it's trying to figure it out and be more and more accurate in the way it makes those predictions. Because the more accurately it can make those predictions, the less surprises there are. Okay? Now, when we're not prepared for something, that's where anxiety comes in. Right? If you have a big, you know, meeting coming up, or you have to do something, you just don't feel ready for it. A big life event coming up, a big expense maybe, and you're not ready for that financially. Like that's where anxiety comes in. And so anxiety is there for a reason. People say, oh, I need to get rid of this anxiety. But the reason the anxiety is there is because it's trying to get you to take action to be prepared for that problem. Okay, so you know, some people, when they take action by working out, it helps just kind of chill the system out, so you can reset and look at it with clear eyes. The way you handle that stress within the workout makes a big difference in how you handle stress in the rest of your life. If you have your head on straight in a workout, you can be attacking the workout, right? Or the workout can be intimidating. And the way that you take that workout is going to dramatically change the way your nervous system interprets that pressure. Well, I'm getting in the weeds here. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I like the information.
Well, it is. And it's important to understand how this stuff kind of fits together. So where anxiety is concerned, it's your system trying to drive you to take action to get prepared for this situation, right? So that we can survive whatever it is that is coming at us. So when we're exercising, we can practice for these events. Like, your body doesn't necessarily understand the difference between a bear trying to attack you or a a meeting with your boss that is, maybe not so good.
Are you prepared for?
Yeah, right. It's danger, right? So, so when you have this stressor, this thing that you have to come against, the way that you've taught your body how to respond to this stress is what you're going to default to. Okay. So if you think fight or flight, right? If you tend to get all angry and posture up and really stand up for yourself and stuff like that, that's going to be your default mode. If you are more submissive, you try to avoid this thing, you try to get away from it, that's going to be your default. In your workout, you can actually train yourself to be more on the assertive side. Because the workout is essentially, we're providing you with a virtual simulated bear, right? This is a hunt, ideally. If we're hunting, we're in fight mode and we're trying to win. This is a challenge that we've come up against. This is a stress, but we're looking at it as a challenge and we're trying to win this challenge. We're trying to overcome this situation. If we're looking at this as a threat, so two people can look at the same workout completely different. If this workout is like, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, and you approach the workout with that mentality and you're just getting through it. You're just enduring it. You're like suffering through it. Now you're kind of teaching yourself that when there's a stressor, you should be in flight because that's the solution. Right? Exactly. That's really what flight is. It's, I don't want to be in this situation. I need to extricate myself, right? So working out is a great way to simulate these situations so that you can prime your system to be prepared to deal with stress in this manner. Okay, so then we go back to anxiety. We've got this thing that we need to take action against in order to be prepared for this situation. Well, part of that solution might be taking action in an uncomfortable situation, right? To initiate a hard conversation, whatever it may be. If you have practiced like dealing with stress in that assertive, proactive way, you're going to be much more likely to actually be able to do that, right? So if you start looking at working out not so much as just like losing weight and getting a little stronger or whatever, and you think about it as this is how I prepare this human machine, this incredible machine that we have to do life, right? It completely changes the way it hits you. Like I think I said in another one, like this body is like 200,000 years old, right? That's how long this thing has been in existence. And the environment that it evolved in was crazy. Like you want to talk about danger? Like we're dodging K-bears and hunting woolly mammoths and doing all, rival tribes. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And we were built to survive that. You look at what we have today, it's very different. The enemies that we have are not nearly as cut and dry, and they're not nearly as lethal, but our system still thinks that they are. And so understanding that and making sure that our body is confident that we're prepared to handle the situation coming at us, that's where the real value is in working out, in exercising, in being healthy. Because the better that system works, the better it's going to be able to serve you.
Right. And the more freedom you have to do the things you want to do, right? And that's kind of the big message we talked about last time. I loved what you said earlier in that explanation. There's no such thing as false confidence, right? In my mind, I related that. My dad taught me that many years ago when it came to sports, but just applying that to our own personal lives too. It's amazing how often, whether it's, binge eating, binge drinking, binge watching, but just avoiding things we do because we're not confident to address the situation that you're talking about. So whether it's building that confidence or decreasing that anxiety, I think those are both extremely invaluable points. And one thing that I think one of the most, I don't know if the taboo is the right way to say it, but one of the most uncomfortable conversations we have in our society today is mental health, right? And depression. And so anxiety is kind of related to that, but can you touch on even just the reliefs of exercise? It doesn't have to be like CrossFit necessarily, I don't think, but just the reliefs of even being depressed that exercising can have on people and feeling better about themselves and wanting to be excited to get up in the morning rather than wanting to avoid the life that they're living.
Right. Okay. So like you said, anxiety and depression are related. And just like anxiety has a function in our system, depression has a function as well. So where anxiety is trying to get us to take action to solve a problem, depression is trying to get us to freeze up, right? So if we think about the two ways over here, we're talking about solving a problem, the fight or flight. If those don't work, like if we're being chased by a bear, can't fight the bear. No, that's not going to work. We try to run from the bear. The bear's faster than us. That's not going to work either. The next thing that your body has, the next thing that your system has is to play dead, right? And so that's to get down on the floor, hide yourself, and don't move. And that's where depression comes in. Because if you're anxious about a problem and that problem doesn't get solved, and so that action that it's trying to get you to take doesn't solve the problem, it's going to flip you over and say that what we're doing isn't working to get away from this bear. We need to play dead. And so that's why you are paralyzed by your thoughts. You want to hide under the covers, shut yourself away from everybody and everything, and not move. Like, depression is absolutely paralyzing from top to bottom. It's an awful, awful thing. But if we look at it as it having a function, then you can kind of understand the rules of operation within your body, and you can start to unpack it and figure out how to get past it, right? So if we go back to our nervous system as trying to make a prediction about what's going to happen, the first thing it has to decide is whether we're safe or unsafe, okay? And depending on that distinction, it's going to put us in a different sort of mental state to handle the situation. So if it thinks that we're safe, we can be relaxed, hanging out, talking. If it thinks that we are, there's something that we have to deal with, maybe that's where we get into fight mode and we're going to deal with this challenge. If, however, we say this is a threat and we are not safe, now we're shifting down towards flight. Now we're shifting down towards playing dead or freeze mode, right? So if you're stuck in anxiety, pushing you towards flight, or you're switching back and forth between anxiety and depression, right? Both of those are under the safe line. Both of those happen when you're feeling unsafe. So one of the most important things that you can do to help combat that is to try to tell your system that you're actually safe. There is no bear, right? You are not actually in any danger. And so a lot of ways that people do that, a lot of the exercises out there are breathing exercises. Okay. So if you think about why that is, let's do a couple of these things, right? So if you go, put an angry face on, like you can see, that's a very aggressive thing, right? If you try it right now, go ahead and do it. Right? Breathing through your mouth. Like you can feel your
my body got hot. My face got red and my body got hot. Like I actually could feel the tingling in my body. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was laughing while I was doing it, but even just like the slight doing it, I could feel a difference.
Yeah. Just a few breaths and you change your facial setup, you change your posture, you're getting more towards that fight mode. Now, if you go like this and you go, you can feel yourself ramping up towards that flight mode, right? It's just these little things. And so what happens when you're panicked? You're taking those short, fast breaths. You get all kind of crunched up like you're bracing yourself from something. And so you can see that just from those two things, your breathing has a massive effect and your posture has a massive effect on how your mental state is, right? So if we're going to take the state we're in and try to make us safe, what we're thinking about, like if your body thinks there's a bear that's attacking you and you're playing dead, and suddenly you sit up and you start taking breaths like this. Well, that bear would eat you, right? Because now we're not playing dead. So by continuing to take those nice calm breaths in a nice calm stance or posture, you're telling your body that there's actually not a bear there, right? So your system basically goes, I guess we're okay, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can do that, it's not going to fix the problem. You still have to address what was driving you there in the first place, but it can get you out of that vicious cycle. It can get you to a safe place where you can better assess the situation and actually take action to fix the problem. So breathing exercises are fantastic. Talk about a routine. You want to. This is one you can put it anytime, but specifically in the evening, you think about dropping that state down. That's going to help you sleep. So if you want to practice getting yourself into a safe, just kind of chilled out state before you go to bed, this is going to significantly help you get to sleep. Okay, there's other things that you can do with that too, but that again is a good habit to get into. The more we can understand the level of control we actually have in our state, and the more we can take control of that, again, the more we can have our body serve us rather than feel like we're just hanging on to your life. So really simple breathing exercise to do is called ocean breathing. You breathe in through your nose, out through your nose. And when you breathe out, you're kind of trying to make it sound like you're going to fog up glass. You're like going, but through your nose. So you go. Nice big breaths. So when you do that, you set a timer for 2 minutes. You say, the only thing I'm going to worry about right now is just breathing. I'm going to close my eyes, get it nice, relaxed as I can get, nice and comfortable. Just don't want to use a timer. You can pick a number, whether it's 10, whether it's 20, 30, whatever. The more you can do that, the more you're going to shift that state. There's a lot of other breathing exercises out there. Big one that I use is Wim Hof, Wim Hof method. You can Google it. He does all kinds of crazy stuff, but his whole method is just based on breathing and trying to work with the body instead of fighting your body, right? So when you talk about depression, you talk about anxiety, you can feel so paralyzed, you feel so helpless, and you just kind of get stuck back and forth. You're never both at the same time because they're driving you in different directions. But when you flip back and forth between the two, the only real way to get yourself back out again is to find a way to get yourself safe. Some other things that can help, like breathing is huge, but forcing yourself to leave your room, call somebody on the phone. Being social, that helps calm you down too, right? You can go for a walk, movement, changing your environment. That helps too, because if your system thinks this environment that we're in is unsafe, and you take yourself out of that environment and you add people to it that you know and love, those are other signals that can tell your system that you're safe, right? So all of those things are difficult to do when you're in the middle of an episode. But again, the more you can practice those things, the more you understand how to use those tools, the more they're going to be there for you when you need them.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. It's funny. So one thing I love about this conversation is when you talk about the fight, flight, I won't go into the depression necessarily, but it's funny that you actually were able to create a real life situation, because admittedly I've done like 70 plus money, not math conversations, and I'm comfortable talking in front of people now. But when you challenged me to like make the faces, I will admit I got a little like, oh crap, am I going to be embarrassed, or like, what are people going to think about me? But what does it matter? Right. So it's funny how my mind did a quick evaluation of, am I going to lean into this, or am I going to run from this? Like, what's my response going to be? So it's really interesting how easy it is for someone to get in that situation. But like you said, whether it's the exercising or the breathing, but the more often you do it, the easier it is to lean into it rather than run from it.